Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more Billionaire Stories 101. The Los Angeles skyline was a glittering carpet of lights, of a million little stars. It was a view she usually savored, a quiet moment of triumph after a day of ruling her empire. Tonight, as her private elevator whispered up the spine of her building, she felt a familiar, pleasant hum of anticipation. Mike was home, her fiancé. In a few short weeks, he'd be her husband. She shifted the heavy garment bag containing her gown for the upcoming charity gala, a vintage Vera Wang she'd found at a sample sale, a small, grounding indulgence from her pre-billionaire days. The elevator chimed, the polished brass doors slid open, and she stepped into the marble foyer of her penthouse, a smile already forming on her lips. Then she heard it. A low, muffled thump. A breathy laugh. Coming from the direction of the master suite. Her heart did a strange little flutter, a skip that wasn't excitement. She placed her designer bag on the console table, her movements slow, deliberate. The marble floor felt cold under her bare feet as she padded silently down the hall, past the gallery wall of abstract art she'd bought on a whim, past the door to the guest room. The sounds grew clearer. Not just laughter, murmuring, a masculine groan that wasn't Mike's. The bedroom door was ajar, a sliver of golden light spilling onto the dark wood of the hallway. With a hand that had signed contracts worth millions, she pushed it open. The scene before her was a grotesque painting, a brutal slash across the canvas of her perfect life. The custom silk sheets she'd had imported from Italy were a tangled mess on the floor, and tangled in them, on the bed, were two men. Mike, his back to her, his familiar, broad shoulders hunched over. And beneath him, his face buried in the pillow, was Dave. Mike's best friend, his best man, the one who was supposed to stand beside them at the altar. For a moment, the world was mute. Just the frantic thumping of her own blood in her ears, a deafening drumbeat against the silence. Then, Mike shifted, turning his head, and his eyes met hers. The color drained from his face so fast it was like watching a wave recede from the shore. "Shannon!" he yelped, scrambling back, grabbing for a sheet that wasn't there. "Shannon, wait! It's not what it looks like." The absurdity of the cliché shattered the ice in her veins, flooding her with a fire so hot it was cold. "It's not what it looks like?" she heard herself say, her voice a terrifyingly calm whisper that seemed to come from someone else entirely. "You're in our bed, naked, with your best friend." "Enlighten me, Mike. What the hell is it supposed to look like?" Dave was fumbling for his jeans, his face a mask of panic. "Shannon, look, we can explain. Don't you dare speak to me," she snapped, the calm shattering. Her voice rose to a roar that echoed off the floor-to-ceiling windows. "In my house! Get your hands off my sheets!" Mike stumbled toward her, his hands outstretched, his face a pathetic mask of pleading. "Shannon, baby, please, just listen. It was a mistake." A moment of weakness. I was confused, stressed about the wedding, and Dave was just comforting me. "It's you I love. It's you I want to marry." The lies, so slick and practiced, made her stomach churn. But before she could unleash the torrent of fury building inside her, Dave let out a bitter, hollow laugh. He was fully dressed now, his earlier panic replaced by a cold, sneering defiance. "Comforting you?" Dave spat, looking at Mike with a mixture of disgust and pity. "Are you kidding me with this?" He turned his hard, accusatory gaze on Shannon. "God, you really don't get it, do you? There is no confusion. There is no mistake. Mike doesn't love you. He never loved you." The words hit her like physical blows, each one a punch to the gut. "What?" "He was marrying you for your money, you idiot," Dave continued, his voice dripping with venomous glee. "The cars, the trips, the penthouse. He was never going to give this up. I was just something on the side. The dirty secret he kept in the dark. He wanted your cash, your lifestyle, your name. He wanted to be Mr. Shannon Vance. But he wanted me in his bed." Mike stared at Dave, his face a canvas of horror and betrayal. "Dave, shut up!" "Why?" Shannon whispered, the fight draining out of her, leaving behind a hollow ache of humiliation so profound she felt dizzy. She looked at Mike, this man she had trusted, had loved, had planned to build a life with. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a con artist. A user. You were going to marry me for a credit card? Shannon, it's not true. He's just jealous. He's trying to ruin us. Mike pleaded, reaching for her arm. She flinched away as if his touch would burn her. Don't touch me! Her voice was low, trembling with the effort to maintain control. She pointed a shaking finger toward the door. Get out, both of you. Get your things and get out of my house. Now. Shannon, please. Now. They scrambled, grabbing clothes, shoes, anything they could carry, a flurry of guilty movements. Mike kept throwing her desperate, pleading looks, while Dave maintained a stony, defiant silence. The door slammed behind them with a finality that echoed in the cavernous, empty space. The silence that followed was deafening. Shannon stood rooted to the spot in the middle of her ruined bedroom. Then, the tears came. Not gentle, sorrowful tears, but heaving, ugly sobs that tore from her chest. She sank to the floor, hugging her knees. The billionaire CEO reduced to a heartbroken girl in a puddle of Italian silk. She was a titan of industry, a woman who had built an empire from scratch, and she had been made a fool of in the most intimate way possible. An hour later, curled on the couch in a bathrobe, her eyes raw and swollen, her phone buzzed. It was her mother. For a wild, irrational second, she thought about telling her everything, but the lump in her throat wouldn't let her speak. Shannon, honey, her mother's voice came through, strained and worried. It's your father. He had a bad turn. We're at the hospital in Grand Island. All thoughts of her own shattered world evaporated. What? Mom, is he okay? I'm coming. I'm on my way. Instinct took over. She threw clothes into a bag. Not designer luggage, but an old duffel she'd had since college. No makeup, no heels, just jeans, sweaters, and boots. She needed to go home. The change was jarring. The dry, open air of Nebraska was a world away from the smog-kissed breeze of LA. Her father was stable, but the scare had been real. He was a sturdy man, a retired mechanic, and seeing him pale and tethered to monitors in a small-town hospital room was terrifying in a way that no boardroom battle ever could be. Their home was a modest, two-story house on a quiet street. The kind of place where the most high-tech item was the coffee maker. Her mother fussed, making pot roast and refusing any help with the dishes. We don't need any fancy robots doing it for us, she'd say, shooing Shannon away. Here, she wasn't Shannon Vance, CEO. She was just Shannon, their daughter. A few days into her stay, needing air, she walked into town. As she passed the old grain elevator, she saw him, a man leaning against a battered pickup truck, a piece of straw dangling from his lips. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a strong jaw and eyes the color of the Nebraska sky. He looked up, and recognition flickered in his gaze. Hey, he said, a slow, easy smile spreading across his face. It's the little rich girl. Shannon, right? From school. Her stomach clenched. Bryer Callahan. The boy who used to call her Prissy Missy and flick her braids in the hallway. He'd been a source of misery in middle school, but the man standing before her was different. There was a warmth in his eyes, a quiet confidence that replaced the old boyish cruelty. Bryer, she said, her voice guarded. He grinned, and it was like the sun coming out from behind a cloud. Heard your dad's not doing so hot. I'm sorry. He's a good man. Fixed my dad's tractor for free once. The unexpected kindness disarmed her. Thanks. He's getting better. They talked for a few minutes. A simple, easy conversation about the town, the harvest, the new coffee shop that had opened on Main Street. There was no pretense, no talk of net worth or market shares. It was refreshing. Over the next week, she ran into him everywhere. At the grocery store, at the hospital cafeteria, on her morning walks. Each time, the conversations got a little longer, the smiles a little warmer. He was attentive, funny, and so incredibly grounded. One evening, as the sun set over the cornfields, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, he found her sitting on a bench near the park. He sat down next to her, a comfortable silence settling between them. So, he said, turning to her, his expression sincere, I know I was a jerk to you in middle school. I was a stupid kid trying to look tough. I've regretted it for a long time. I'm hoping you'll give the grown-up version a chance to make up for it. Shannon, would you like to go on a date with me? Her heart did that flutter again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was hope. Yes, Bryer, I'd like that.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for more Billionaire 101 stories. Their first date was at a local barbecue joint, and it was perfect. They talked for hours. He told her about his family farm, a massive operation he now ran, supplying corn and soybeans to grocery chains and local co-ops. "I'm no corporate big shot," he'd say with a self-deprecating laugh, wiping barbecue sauce from his chin. "I'm just a guy who likes getting his hands dirty. I couldn't imagine being one of those billionaires, trapped in some ivory tower. This is the real world out here." Shannon would just smile and nod, taking a bite of her pulled pork, the truth of her own life, a heavy, secret weight on her tongue. In Nebraska, she wore no makeup. Her clothes were simple. She was just Shannon. And for the first time in years, it felt like enough. Weeks melted into a blissful routine of hospital visits, long drives through the countryside, and quiet evenings on his porch, watching the fireflies. She met his friends, including Stacey, a woman from their high school who worked at the local real estate office. Stacey's smile was a little too tight, her laugh a little too loud when Bryer put his arm around Shannon. Her eyes would follow Shannon with a flicker of something dark, a bitter envy that Shannon recognized all too well from the corporate world. Stacey was stuck in Grand Island, and Shannon, the interloper from the big city, had walked in and captured the town's most eligible bachelor. One Friday night, Bryer took her to a local bar, a lively place with a country band and ice-cold beer. They were laughing at something, sharing a basket of fries, when Stacey slid onto the stool beside Shannon. She was already a few drinks in, her eyes glazed with a familiar malice. "So, Shannon," Stacey said, her voice loud enough to cut through the music. "You've been here, what, a month? Living that high life in LA must be so hard. Tell us again how you slum it here in Nebraska." Shannon stiffened. "Stacey, I never said that." "Oh, please," Stacey scoffed, leaning in. "You don't have to. We all know you're just here for a little vacation from your fancy life. Playing farm girl for a while must be a fun game." She turned to Bryer, her voice dripping with false pity. "Bryer, honey, don't you get it? She's gonna go back to her big city and her big, important job, and you're gonna be left here with your corn. You're just a fling, a little taste of the simple life." Bryer frowned, opening his mouth to defend her, but Stacey wasn't done. She whipped back to Shannon, a triumphant, ugly sneer on her face. "What do you even do, Shannon? Let me guess, you're like an influencer or something? Must be nice to have mommy and daddy's money to fall back on." Something inside Shannon snapped. The secrecy, the lies by omission, the constant knot of anxiety in her stomach. It all boiled over. She leaned forward, her voice low and clear, cutting through the bar noise like a knife. "My company is called Vance Aesthetics, Stacey. The skincare line, the one that's in every department store from here to Tokyo, the hair care line they just launched, that's mine. I'm not an influencer. I'm the owner. I built it from the ground up. I'm a billionaire." The silence that fell over their small corner of the bar was absolute. The band seemed to fade away. Stacey's sneer froze, then melted into an expression of pure, unadulterated shock. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Bryer stared at Shannon, his sky-blue eyes wide, his face a mask of disbelief, and something else, something that looked like betrayal. "A billionaire?" he repeated, the words sounding foreign on his lips. "You're one of them?" "Bryer, it's not like that," she started, reaching for him, but he was already standing up, shaking his head slowly. "You sat there, night after night, and let me talk about how I'm nothing like those people. You let me go on, and you never said a word, not one word." He looked at her, not with anger, but with a deep, profound disappointment that was somehow worse. He turned and walked out of the bar, leaving her alone in the middle of the stunned crowd. Stacey's smug smile slowly returning. The next few days were agony. Her father was well enough to go home, but her own heart was in turmoil. Bryer wouldn't answer her calls. She left him a long, heartfelt voicemail, explaining everything, apologizing for not telling him sooner, for being so afraid of losing what they had, but the silence from his end was a deafening answer. Her mother, sensing her distress, gave her a hug. "Go home, baby. Clear your head. He'll come around, or he won't. But you can't hide from your life forever." So, with a heavy heart, Shannon packed her duffel bag and flew back to Los Angeles. The penthouse felt even emptier and colder than before. The glittering city lights below seemed to mock her. She had everything, and yet she felt like she had nothing. She threw herself back into work, but her mind was 1,000 miles away, on a farm in Nebraska, with a man who saw the real her, even if he didn't know her real name. A week after she returned, on a Friday night, she was alone, curled up on her couch with a tub of ice cream, watching a movie she wasn't seeing. The doorbell rang. She ignored it. It rang again, longer this time. Sighing, she trudged to the door and looked at the security monitor. Her breath caught in her throat. Standing in the hallway, looking impossibly out of place in his work boots and a plaid shirt, was Bryer. He was holding a single, slightly wilted sunflower. Her fingers fumbled with the lock. She pulled the door open, and there he was. His eyes were tired, but they held that same familiar warmth. "Bryer," she whispered. How?" "I got your voicemail," he said, his voice rough. "I must have listened to it 100 times. I was an idiot. I was scared. Not of you being a billionaire, but of you not being the person I thought you were. But you are." He took a step closer. "You're the same woman who sat on my porch and laughed at my stupid jokes. You're the same woman who cried with me when we watched that sad documentary about the bees. You're Shannon. That's all that matters to me." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm so sorry I didn't tell you." "I get it," he said, his smile finally reaching his eyes. "It's a lot. And I guess I have a thing or two to learn about billionaires, if they're anything like you." He held out the sunflower. "This is for you. It's from my farm. It's not as fancy as the orchids you probably have, but..." She took it, her fingers brushing against his, and a current of pure electricity shot up her arm. "It's perfect," she breathed. She pulled him inside, and the heavy door clicked shut behind them. He looked around the penthouse, his eyes wide. "Wow, this is a lot of white." She laughed, a real, genuine laugh that she hadn't let out in weeks. "It is. Come here." She led him away from the stark, minimalist living room and into her bedroom. This time, there was no shock, no horror, only a quiet, desperate need. The city lights glittered far below as they came together, a slow, tender exploration that was as much about healing as it was about passion. He kissed away the last of her tears, his touch a balm to her wounded soul. It was real, it was honest, and for the first time in a long time, she felt truly, completely home. Later, they lay tangled in her ruined Italian sheets, the ones she'd never gotten around to replacing. The ones that had witnessed her greatest humiliation now witnessed her redemption. They talked until the first light of dawn began to tint the sky. She told him everything about Mike, about the betrayal, about the loneliness of it all. He listened, holding her close. "That guy was a fool," he murmured into her hair. "He had the real thing and traded it for a fantasy." Around noon, they finally surfaced, giddy and exhausted. Shannon, feeling lighter than she had in months, decided to make them breakfast. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, wearing one of his flannel shirts, whisking eggs, when her phone buzzed on the marble counter. And then another buzz. And another. A steady hum of notifications. She glanced at the screen. Her heart stopped. It was a news alert from a major celebrity gossip site. The headline screamed in bold, black letters. "Mike's mess. Jilted billionaire Shannon Vance's ex-fiancé, arrested in elaborate identity theft scheme." With a trembling hand, she opened the article. Bryer came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, reading over her shoulder. The article detailed how Mike, whose real name was Michael Treadway, wasn't just a gold digger. He and Dave were a duo. They'd been running a long con grift for years, targeting wealthy, successful women. Mike would romance them, get them to trust him, and then systematically drain their assets or use their information for fraudulent loans and credit lines. Dave was the tech guy, the one who forged documents and managed the financial trails. They'd been arrested at a hotel in Santa Barbara, trying to flee the country. The police had found a folder on Mike's laptop with Shannon's name on it, filled with forged documents and plans to transfer funds from several of her shell corporations after the wedding. She stared at the screen, a cold dread seeping into her bones, quickly replaced by a wave of nausea. She hadn't just been cheated on. She hadn't just been made a fool of. She had been a target, a mark. The wedding wasn't the goal. It was the final step in a meticulously planned heist. He was going to steal everything, she whispered, the realization hitting her with the force of a physical blow. He wasn't just using me for a lifestyle. He was going to wipe me out. Bryer's arms tightened around her, a solid, unshakable anchor in the storm of her revelation. He turned her gently to face him, his thumbs brushing the tears from her cheeks. His eyes, those beautiful Nebraska sky eyes, held no fear, no judgment, only a fierce, unwavering protectiveness. "Hey," he said softly, his voice a low rumble against the frantic beat of her heart. "Look at me. He didn't get anything. You kicked him out. You saved yourself." He tilted her chin up, holding her gaze. A slow, devastatingly handsome smile spread across his face. "My girl," he said, the words a promise. "My badass, brilliant billionaire girl. You caught the bad guys all on your own. I'm just glad I get to be here for the after party." And in that moment, surrounded by the wreckage of her old life, wrapped in the arms of a man who loved her for who she was, Shannon Vance, the girl who had everything, finally understood that she had just gained the one thing money could never buy: true safety and real love. Hope you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button and watch out for more billionaire stories.